Good morning, everyone. My name is Nancy Thomas. I'm a team member of the InUnison team. I want to welcome you to our Warren Whitney featuring our workforce webinar today. Thank you all for joining us. I know people are still logging in, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. First, I just want to thank Warren Whitney, the team at Warren Whitney, for working with InUnison. We are so appreciative of having this expertise help us and our members. So thank you. We have Tom Prest and Beth Williams, both directors of human resources. I'm going to read just a brief bio because I think that's important. Tom Prest is a director of Warren Whitney with more than 25 years of experience in human resources and administration. He focuses on long-term competitive strategies to attract, retain, and engage top talent while achieving cost management, with a focus on growth and impact. Tom is a team player who thrives in collaborative environments. He translates visions and strategies into actionable, value-added results. Welcome, Tom, and thank you. We have Beth Williams, who has worked in human resource management for more than 25 years with experience that spans a very diverse group of industries, including energy, financial services, banking, legal services, pharmaceuticals, IT, and nonprofit. I had to take a breath on that one, Beth. She provides a full range of HR consulting services and strategic solutions, which are customized for each client and provide a clear direction to company goals and objectives. So with that, I also just want to let the group know that we will take questions in the chat. I will monitor the questions with Tom and Beth. You will also receive a recording which will include this PowerPoint. So again, thank you for joining us. Questions in the chat. If we don't get to all the questions today, I promise I will get them to our friends at Warren Whitney and we will get you a response. So with that, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Tom and Beth. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy. We really appreciate being here and welcome to all of you. I'd like to just give you a really quick overview of Warren Whitney. And for those of you who may or may not be familiar with our services, our firm is over 30 years running in the Richmond area. Our office is here in Richmond, but we do work throughout the state and in some cases other states. It just depends on our clients. We have around 30 professionals or so in these different areas. So the finance and accounting area, HR, of course, technology and operations. And then we do a pretty large amount of work in the nonprofit strategy and board governance area. And so it makes us very well-rounded. Our clients are also family-owned businesses, for-profit, and they range in size from 1 to 1,400 or so employees. So we have a sweet spot generally in the smaller to mid-sized client group. So we're welcome, and we're looking forward to sharing information all together, all of us. So the topic today, embracing a new mindset, post-pandemic talent recruitment and retention strategies and best practices. And so I will add a little tagline to that will add that it is in a challenging work environment, which we know we all feel every day. And as leaders, we must inspire our people that we work with and our employees with a strong and achievable vision, an inclusive culture, personal growth opportunities, and competitive rewards. So that covers a lot for our employees. We'll share today survey information and observations, some of our experiences, and best practices. We have a really diverse group today. We have a large group, as Nancy mentioned, and we have retail, hospitality. We have private business, private sole practitioners as well. So it's a varied group. So we'll all have a lot of different perspectives and outlooks and challenges. So in November, Mercer conducted a survey, and the top 3 areas that were reported by employees and organizations, the top 3 were: one was shifting to rewarding individual performance with short and long-term incentives. So rather than simply pay adjustments or a raise or a cost of living adjustment, organizations were looking, as a result of the survey as well, at different kinds of incentives. Also offering a range of benefits to support our new environment. So work-life balance, mental health, family considerations, and including being flexible and changing time off policies. And then the third was employees wanted to be in a purposeful job or a purposeful work environment. They wanted to be proud of where they worked. And that leads to a stronger retention. So, non-monetary recognition, title changes, more training, a mentoring, and a coach are all just examples of those, the ways that you can help create a more purposeful work environment. There was a Gardner survey study that was done, and one of the pieces of that was significant for me was we're in a values work environment with especially with our hybrid work environment, that we must align the personal values of the employees with those of the organization. And then, of course, with the hybrid work environment, it shifts as well. So making a mission impact tangible to new hires is the challenge in the beginning, and then from there throughout the life cycle for the employees. So the 2022-2023 survey, this was the Gardner survey of HR professionals. Nearly 600 HR professionals responded to the survey and listed their top priorities, and they ranked them as critical to the organization, and this was the list. So you can see, the critical skills and competency development for employees, the organizational design and change management, leadership and succession planning is always top of the list. DEI initiatives, the employee experience, recruiting, and then of course technology and performance management, among others. So you'll see that all of those top priorities for HR leaders. And of course, the hybrid work environment, again, makes that more challenging.
Okay, the pandemic has really affected how employees feel about work and life. And you can see, this is also from the Gartner survey, that the gold boxes are really showing that an employee, when they were surveyed, either agree or strongly agree. And this is about how the pandemic has affected them. So it shifted their attitude towards the value of aspects outside of work, 65%. Also, it's made employees rethink the place that work should have in their life. It's made employees long for bigger change in their life. It's also changed their perspective on the desirability of workplace location, remote work, hybrid work. It's made employees want to contribute more to society, as Beth already mentioned, purposeful work, something that's meaningful, gives their life meaning, and also made them question the purpose of their day-to-day job. And also it has changed expectations towards the employer. And we all know, with the hiring crisis and the difficulty in recruiting staff, that the employee has really sort of gotten in the driver's seat. This next slide really covers, sort of a discrepancy between what employees feel are important and what employers think that employees feel are important. So we've circled up here at the top. It's hard to read, but these are the things that are really important to employees that employers did not put as high up on their list. Being valued by the manager, being valued by the organization, and a sense of belonging. So these things, feeling connected to the workplace, feeling appreciated, feeling a part of the culture, which has become so much more important today than it was in the past. So this is just, when you get the copy of the slide deck, you can really dig in and look at this in more detail, but that's what we wanted to share over for an overview. The next slide really highlights diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. In 2020, there was a renewed commitment to DEI strategies and initiatives with a focus on, discussing ways to advance leaders of color, microaggressions, and cultural competency. Really trying to foster open and honest dialogue. This was from a Mathematica survey in March of 2022. We also saw the emergence of this concept of belonging as part of the DEI strategy. So it's often now referred to as DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Belonging is rooted in feelings that people have. Individuals need to feel leveraged. They need to feel valued. They need to feel celebrated more than they used to. And why does it matter? Because this Work Bravely article from February 2021, when someone feels like they don't belong on their team, they might believe they're hindrances to the team's goals and business outcomes. If someone doesn't feel psychologically safe, they need to bring up their concerns, and they may continue to hang back from the group, feeling disempowered and unable to contribute. And also from a Deloitte study, 44% of employees reported that feeling aligned to the organization's purpose, mission, and values, and being valued for their contributions was the biggest driver of belonging at work. So you can see feeling connected is critical today. Everybody's heard about quiet quitting. Basically, this is where an employee has sort of changed their priorities in their life, and they may choose to do less at work. Quiet quitting doesn't mean that they actually quit. It may mean just a pulling back. Some of it, may be healthy for the individual and the organization. Some of it, isn't, of course. But you can see from the pyramid of quiet quitting that it starts with a foundation of a lack of trust. And then it leads to a lack of consistency, employees not being treated fairly or consistently, either with policies or pay, feel a lack of feeling valued. And then that leads to a lack of sense of belonging and lack of communication. So employees pull back. But what do we do to address this? As employers, we need to set healthy boundaries. Make sure the policies are in place and are enforced regularly. Hybrid work policy, make sure that that's as fair as it can be. Understand that people's priorities have changed. So as an employer, know that, and know that you're going to need to take care of your employees more than you have in the past. Also, as Beth's already mentioned, improve your performance management process. Make sure that there's a regular cycle of feedback and a formal process that's ongoing that gives employees feedback. A lot of organizations have instituted what are called stay interviews, where rather than exit interviews, when the employee leaves, they hold stay interviews to hear their employees, what are their concerns, and then address their concerns so they will stay with the organization. And sort of the last one of these strategies is to acknowledge overworked and the need for flexibility. It's just important to really have your finger on the pulse of your employees, how they're feeling, and sort of take some initiative if you see someone is overstressed, or you can tell like that they're having challenges, to reach out to them as a leader and see if there's something you can do to help. This next slide is a very busy one, so I'm just going to give an overview of it, but it's a real life application of recognition and belonging. There are 3 phases to recognition and belonging. One is sort of the beginning, that even in your job posting, even in your job interviews, you communicate your culture, your values, your mission, what you're about. And throughout the orientation and onboarding process, you're building connections with the employee, you're building that relationship. If you start early, you get a jump on it. The second phase is sort of a phase 2 of recognition. And there are 2 different types: automated recognition and then discretionary. Automated is like celebrating birthdays, acknowledging holidays. If there's a week in your industry, like National Salesperson Week or Nurses Week, celebrating those. Discretionary recognitions include a recognition program that you may implement, or a manager taking an employee out to lunch, things like that. And then the phase 3 is the more formal, ongoing recognition, performance-based recognitions that include, recognition and rewards as far as bonuses or pay increases.
All right. And then compensation, of course, which, there's so many ways to be creative with compensation, particularly if there are ways to add in variable pay or different long-term incentives or short-term incentives in addition to your salary. So this is a pay scale data. And this is looking at the top 2 boxes are in general, not any specific market, but the current 2022 increase that was budgeted and projected for pay increases. And then on the right-hand side, the 2023 budgeted increase amount. And then the 2 boxes below, we're going to highlight specifically the retail segment of the market. So you can see in 2022, it was 3 to 3.3% average. And going into 2023, it's going to be a bit lower. And so then you add everything, you layer everything else on top of that, and you look at inflation, and you look at the pandemic, and you look at the great resignation and the extreme market that we have right now, the difficulty that we all have in recruiting and conducting searches, given the marketplace. So, what can you do within your organization to be creative in this space for compensation? There was a Mercer study in November as well, and there were some things that shifted as it related to compensation. So not necessarily monetary, but also the non-monetary. One was the long and short-term incentives and bonuses and those kinds of things. The other is benefits, the benefits that you're offering. And hopefully every year at open enrollment with your brokers, you're looking at what do you have? How can you enhance your package? Some people I know have done surveys with their employees to say, we're coming up on open enrollment. What would you like to see different? What would you like to have this year that you didn't have or have access to, whether it's a shared cost or an employee cost? Looking at benefits. Also, the purposeful work was number 3, which is, again, and as Tom has said, and I've said too, tying to the mission of the organization. And whether that is a title change, whether that is training or having a coach or a mentor, whatever that looks like, trying to keep up. And I know in retail, it's a little more difficult probably, and depending on your business, But it's looking at how you can be creative to do that. And then in putting together a new plan or a new program within your organization, it's like anytime you survey your group, you want to always be sure that you're going to follow up and you're going to get back to them. And that's like, kind of the rule of thumb, which is don't ask for data unless you plan to do something with it. So I always say you don't have to agree, you don't have to do everything that comes out of the survey, but at least acknowledge with your employees that you value their opinions, and make sure it pays for itself. Whatever you end up doing, communicate, be transparent, follow through, and timely. So I would ask you, what are you doing differently now that you were not doing a year or 2 or 3 ago in the compensation realm? So pay equity, if you've worked with any of us at Warren Whitney, you'll also realize that pay equity has been important. And that basically pay equity is equal pay for equal work. So that is also being transparent and letting the staff know what the ranges are for new jobs, letting them see those in postings, publishing that. And then the legal compliance piece, which is what's going on tomorrow, employee not asking in the recruiting process about employee salary history, the elimination of wage non-disclosure agreements is new in Washington, New York, and California. The interesting thing in all of this, that from yesterday to tomorrow, is that employees are looking, employees are online, they're searching, they're doing research, and they're talking to their peers. So we have to be more transparent, and we have to be more deliberate about sharing that information. So benefits, again, what can you do or add to your benefit package that is different, unique, supplemental, that will enhance the package that they already have? And in the survey, this was a SHRM survey, but a couple of interesting statistics. 70% of the group said that they wanted more benefits and they wanted supplemental benefits. When it came down to it and the rubber meets the road, less than 50% actually took those benefits. And then the other interesting one, and I'll talk about that in a moment, if you've ever worked with me, you know that for me, benefits meetings and open enrollment meetings in person, if you can do them, is always ideal. And now we're doing, a lot of clients are doing in person as well as virtual meetings to be sure that you cover and reach all of your employees. So those were some interesting statistics that you sort of have to go above and beyond to publish the benefits, explain them, explain how they work, and then follow up and have a kind of a Q&A where people don't have to ask their questions in a group, but who they have access to you and others who can they can ask specific personal questions to help them make their decisions during open enrollment. And I think that's very, very important. So these are kind of different. And these are ones that we found over the last year or so. Some interesting perks and benefits and voluntary programs. They're not mainstream, but they're good ideas and they work for certain industries, I have to assume. So this may spark your creativity a little bit. The reproductive rights support and a fintech software firm, Alloy, covers 50% of legal expenses up to $5,000 for anyone navigating newly enacted anti-abortion laws. The company also offers up to $1,500 for travel expenses and another $1,500 for additional out-of-pocket costs. Handyman help. I think we could probably all use some of that. This is a healthcare staffing company. Fusion Medical Staffing offers employees access to a full-time handyman to help with projects at home, things that take time to be at home, or to meet with a handyman or Mr. Fix-It to get the work done, and the time that it takes you out of your workplace to do that. So a lot of this company in particular was offering assistance with that. Parenting coach, a digital marketing agency, offers a professional coach for new and expectant parents managing not life with a newborn baby, or navigating the baby and parenting, and getting back to work, and what that looks like, and how do you do that. And I think that's kind of a neat offering as well. And then a happiness fund, which I love. I think this is a great idea. Marketing and a media services agency offers $500 a happiness allowance every year to employees to use on whatever brings them joy, whether that is a ski pass, meal prep service, movie tickets, cart fees for golf, tennis court fees, whatever that is, $500 a year. I think that's kind of a neat idea. Work-life specialties. This is an IT solutions firm, and these employees get free sessions with a business coach to help them with work-life balance. And then a home office stipend, which I think a lot of organizations probably went to in the last few years, which is you have an expense when you're working from home as well. If you're printing, if you need to buy ink, if you have a printer cartridges, whatever that looks like, paper, other expenses. So a data management company, ERA Software, provides $3,000 home office stipend during the employee's first year, and then $1,500 each year thereafter for upgrades. So just some different creative perks. I also got a call last week, actually, of a service that's online, and it's a website, and you pay a per person per month fee, which is really pretty inexpensive, actually. And your employees have access to all kinds of discounts, travel discounts, tickets, football tickets, baseball tickets, as well as things that are local, and you put in your zip code. And there are restaurants, and you can look at fine dining, you can look at casual dining, you can look at fast food. So that's kind of interesting concept as well. So I think there are more and more things that are coming up, and more new businesses that are starting in response to the work environment that we have currently. So this is again, you'll be able to see this a little bit better when you get the PowerPoint, but what does it look like to help support mental well-being? And that we hear about that every day. We hear about it in the news, we hear about it in our work, we probably hear about it from our employees. So what can we do as leaders and HR folks to help the employees, whether that's providing an EAP service, providing some sort of legal service, whether it's just demonstrating empathy every day in your work environment. In this hybrid world, it becomes all about flexibility as well. But I have talked to a fair amount of people in the last couple of years that were actually wanted to come back to work. I mean, they didn't even want to be hybrid. They wanted to come back to work because they missed their coworkers. They missed being at the office. They missed that collaboration factor that all of us get when we're actually in the office. So better pay and rewards and benefits. Again, a real life application in looking at the various components of your employment relationship with your employees. So you have compensation, then looking at benefits and incentives, like health and wellness benefit, career progression. I've had a fair number of requests in the past year to say, I need some way for employees to come in and feel like they can work their way through the organization, where they can learn new skills and learn new jobs and progress and have training and development on their goals for the year. I think, again, transparency can be one of your retention policies. It can be a way that you can keep your employees, keep them happy, and communicate with them on an ongoing basis. So, again, just the building blocks and the structure of what that looks like. And it's a lot of different things.
So today's recruiting is about attracting the best talent by designing a working experience that meets their specific, unique needs in a way that resonates on a personal level with the employee. It's also a real benefit to employers who see a 21% increase in the number of high performers compared to organizations that don't provide the same degree of life experience support to their employees. And again, this is from the Gartner survey. So what are you competing in, as you're hiring? Authenticity and commitment to employee belonging and growth is even more important in the interview process. You want to communicate that you are an open, inclusive workplace. Employees increasingly want flexible and hybrid work schedules. So wherever you can, try to build those in. They're human-centric and they build trust and increase work productivity. Also, better pay and pay transparency. Again, as Beth mentioned, with many of you being smaller organizations, it's very hard to compete with how rapidly the wages have increased. But where you can compete is in the culture area. Having a family-like feeling in your business, creating a community of caring for each other, flexibility with work and support with family. What about some real life applications? The United Way of Southwest Virginia has what they call Team Tuesday. And what they do during this is every Tuesday, they highlight one of their employees on their website. By highlighting this employee, it brings recognition to them. It also brings recognition to the organization, reinforces the culture that they have, so that when others see that, when they look at their website, they're like, wow, this is a place that really cares about their employees. We also have another example, LL Flooring, and this is an organization that launched a recruiting campaign of their employees. They basically asked their employees during the month of March to help them recruit employees. Sometimes some of our best employees come from employee referrals. So LL Flooring created a program to do that. So it's really important to manage your online presence, keep your company website with company stories, keeping that culture in the forefront, not only for your employees and your customers, but also for the community, the people that are looking to go to work. Also, keep up your LinkedIn profiles. Ask your employees to incorporate some of your cultural values in their LinkedIn profile, so there's some consistency across the organization. Your job boards, your job postings, same thing. You really want to, if you've never sort of taken the time to look at your culture and define it, your mission, your vision, your values, what's important to you, it's a really good time to do that, because then on your job boards or your job postings, even your job descriptions, you can include those things that bring consistency, sense of belonging, community throughout the organization. Also, one idea is to just do a Google search of your company, see what a candidate might find, see what they're seeing. And if that isn't positive, then you can do something about changing that. Post meaningful responses when people comment on your organization through Google, Glassdoor, other LinkedIn. Make comments on those posts, positive, address their concerns as best you can. And also, make your employees partners and company ambassadors for your organization. Employee referrals are one of your best sources for candidates because they already have a sense of connection, and it brings about a higher retention rate. At this point, we'd like to, maybe take a look at the chat box to see if any questions have come in. And boom.
Nancy,
That's great. Yes, I actually have a question.
Okay.
Aaron, and I know that, on your presentation, you talked about the Creative 6 Uncommon Perks and also, the recognition and belonging slide, but the much smaller companies, do you have specific examples of how to give incentives without increasing their pay?
Well, I think, some of those I touched on just briefly a minute ago, which are, really promoting your culture as a community or a family-owned, family-based business. A lot of times employees say, like, we're family. They legally, of course, they're not, but there's a family feeling, and smaller organizations can really promote that and look at the flexibility, take an interest and care in the employee and their family, make sure that they can carve out time as best they can for parents to visit sporting events or other things that their kids are involved in. Really just building that connection, that relationship is one of the key things they can do.
Yeah,
And sometimes I'll add that too, when you're doing programs with your small family businesses, it can be a burden for one person to have to plan all of that throughout the year. But if you create committees, I've had clients that would ask for volunteers, a couple of volunteers, and each one sort of takes on a different activity. One, it might be the baseball game in the spring, or the next one might be the holiday party, or, if you do something in the fall, that's important to the group. But yeah, I think that that's also helpful, and then getting their feedback on what they want to do. Some family events, some maybe grown-up events. Maybe the holiday party is a grown-up event and the summer picnic is everybody. I don't know. Or the baseball game is everybody. So
great. Well, thanks. And I'm looking at the chat, and so I just want to add, we had one of our attendees who owns a small marketing firm. It's not a question, but I am able to provide a small monthly stipend for employee wellness of their choice.
good.
After they are with me for 90 days, it kicks in. So thank you to Jolinda from Shapes and Colors for that. And Joe Kelleher also shares, we show Department of Labor local pay scales on Career One Stop. So again, providing that transparency that, Tom, both you and Beth spoke about. Another question just came in. When it comes to finding coaches like parenting coaches, where do you find those kind of resources?
There is an organization, and I want to give it to you exactly correctly. It's International Coaching Federation that is the certification organization that certifies coaches. There are others, and that's the one that comes to mind that I had written down, but there are others. And I think if you look at employee coaching, and just do a Google search, or we can also see what we can find out. Tom, do you know of it?
Yeah. Beth mentioned early in the presentation and what's called an employee assistance program.
Yeah.
And, this isn't available for really a relatively small fee, even for small organizations. Basically what they do is they offer either virtual or telephone help where parents can call a counselor, a clinician, and actually, get help for parenting issues if they're struggling with some things. One of the organizations is called All One Health. But basically, like Beth is saying, if you Google employee assistance programs, there are a variety of them. Often the other way is through health insurance, where they offer mental health supports, and so that those are a couple of other ideas.
Let's see. And here's just some other, thank you to all of our attendees. I love the fact that you all are helping out here. Food incentives like providing lunches was big a few years ago. I didn't, it's not as much of a perk anymore, but we all love food.
Yeah.
Those
That's
little
right.
things. Yeah, I mean, I think every little, and again, I want to circle back to what both Beth and Tom said. Ask your employees.
Yeah.
Don't assume you know what their needs are. And I love that the both of you really hit hard on that. And if you're going to ask them questions, be intentional. Make sure you let them know that we may not be able to do everything, but we do want to know what your needs are.
Mhm.
So thank you for that. Let's see what else we have. In your research, this is a question from Pat Haney. In your research, you didn't mention profit sharing 401k programs. How important are these to attract professionals?
For what professionals?
Just professionals
In general.
in
Oh, okay.
general, yes.
Okay. I think they are important. And it's again, I have a client who's offered it and, to 35 or 40 employees and only 2 participate. So I think it's also very industry specific. And right now with the economy, I know people who have decided to really cut back on their retirement contributions. All kinds of philosophical notes about that. Some will say do it, some will say not. And we're certainly not in that field, but I do think it is important to offer that. You don't have to necessarily offer a match. But the other thing you can do is to offer in terms of a bonus at the end of the year, the ability for the employees to put that into their retirement account. I mean, that is some option in some plans. And again, it's about your plan design and working with your advisor to come up with what you think you want to do and planning ahead.
I think just another comment on that is, benefits tend to be very specific in terms of what they mean to an individual, each person. So for a professional who's got their eye to their retirement 401k and the match could be huge, whereas another employee, their health benefits might be critical. So you build the best benefit package you can that will meet the most needs, but know and understand that each employee will value the benefits differently. Nobody's going to be they're going to appreciate all of them, but some of them, they are more critical than others. And I mentioned a couple of those: health insurance, 401k match, time off, flex time, those, hybrid work. So do the best you can and build what you can, but know like that, it will affect people differently. And that's where, Nancy just said, have that meeting with them, sit down and really take a half an hour, and just talk with them about, what their needs may be.
All right, let's see, just checking the chat for other. I don't see any other questions, but I did want to share a comment with the two of you. Midstream, one of our attendees just wrote in the chat in big letters, "Wow, powerful insight."
Oh, good.
So, and also just real creative around those perks. So I just can't thank you enough. The whole team at Warren Whitney, I want to tell the group that's on this webinar, you're never going to find a more authentic organization that really cares about their clients. And we are so incredibly grateful that we can work together. So thank
Yeah.
you for that.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank
So
you.
just a reminder, we will send out the recording, which will include the PowerPoint. And another big reminder, as you all know, for our subscribers to InUnison, we are hosting a roundtable tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. We think it's really important that our members come together and collaborate on the learnings that they just had with Warren Whitney. So please, if you are a free member, you're welcome to upgrade and subscribe, come to that roundtable. But we already have about 9 or 10 people registered, and I can assure you, a collaborative voice of coming together and sharing learnings and challenges and successes is really important for all of us. So Tom and Beth, you certainly have given us a lot to talk about tomorrow at our roundtable. Hold on one second. Yeah, just getting a lot of, sorry, I'm just getting a lot of thank yous, good insights.
Good.
And again, just really thank you to both of you. And we look forward to everyone tomorrow that's coming to the roundtable. If you haven't registered and you'd like to upgrade, or if you're just a paid member, subscriber now, please do so. And again, thank you very much, Beth and Tom, and to Warren Whitney.
Absolutely. You all have a terrific day and rest of your week.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.